Welcome to Emerging Franchise Brands, the podcast that introduces you to the visionary founders of America's fastest growing franchise opportunities. We'll also hear from industry pros as they share insights on what it really takes to achieve the elusive milestone of 100 plus locations. I am your host, Frank Fumey, founder of i9 Sports, and my 20-year journey from inception to acquisition has given me a unique perspective on how to succeed in franchising. Join me as we welcome today's guest. Welcome to the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. On today's show, we have Abid Abedi from iCode School. Abid, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Frank.
It's great to have you. So let's get this out of the way first off. iCode School, i9 Sports, we're not related, right? You and I have never met before.
Nope.
Okay. We just like
I'm getting old. I may have forgotten, but to the best of my knowledge, the answer is no.
We just like the letter I to start our company name.
That's it. Actually, it's funny. When I wanted to trademark iCode, people said, don't bother, you're going to waste your money because anything with an I, especially code, is going to be taken. I thought, you know what? I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a risk taker. Let me go ahead and just apply for it. And lo and behold, I'm on the trademark for here in the States and a bunch of other countries worldwide.
I love it. That's awesome. You got to go for it, right?
Yep, you got to go for it.
Well, let's kick things off and talk about what you guys do. Tell us about iCode School.
You know, the key difference between us and some of our competitors is that competitors, proclaim they teach kids how to code, and that's great. Our thing is we use coding as a tool to teach kids the soft skills, the critical thinking, the problem solving, collaboration, teamwork. So yes, we do teach kids how to code, but we use coding as a tool to teach the soft skills. And that's the key difference between us and some other folks because, I've been in the tech for the last, 30 years. And, the old programming languages, Power Builder, COBOL, they're all gone. The syntax, today is Python, tomorrow is something else. But it is the soft skills that are so essential for success, in my opinion, and that's what we try to focus on. So we teach kids how to code, but we use teaching as a tool, programming as a tool to teach kids the soft skills.
That's so smart, and obviously it's sort of the secret sauce to your company on how you, how you position it right for the customers. So I am kind of curious, how do you position it when you're talking to the moms and dads about registering their kids and being part of iCode School?
Yeah, first I think it's teaching kids to code is pretty boring. No kids want to sit there and write some arcade language and coding. So what we have done, a secret sauce, if you will, is we trick kids into thinking that they're actually playing, right? For instance, I'll give you an example. If you tell the kids, I'm going to teach you Python today. Let's sit down and here is the syntax, how it works. I bet you none of the kids will be interested. But if you tell the kids, hey, you know what? Do you want to fly this drone and have these hoops and let the drone go through these different hoops? And every single kid will say, you know what, I want to do that.
Of course.
Sure. And that's right? So we've gamified learning. So kids that come here think that they're actually playing, but in fact, they're learning things. And of all the parents, one thing the parents tell me about iCode is this is the only education program the kids actually drag the parents to come. So that's the secret sauce. And the other thing is, the look and feel, because I think that has a lot to do with learning. Our campuses are better than Apple stores. We have all glass. We have adult tables, adult chairs. We have drones. We have robots. We have, gaming machines, Raspberry Pi. Every gadget, 3D printing, because we all know kids and adults learn much better when they practice what they learn.
Of course.
And you go to any of these competitors and all they have is a laptop. And that's not very conducive to learning. So we are focused on half an hour of theory when they come in, when the kids come in, and half an hour of practical things when they do it that we enforce learning. We are the only after-school education program that I know of that actually have classrooms, hubs, we call them, because it promotes teamwork and collaboration. We are the only children's after-school program that have adult tables and adult chairs.
Right.
Because the question as the parents is, when the kids are having dinner in the evening on a dining table, the young kids sit on a small round table, small round chairs, they sit on the table with you and eat. And the answer is obviously they sit on the table. And yet I don't understand when they go to educate Kumon, Methanasium, all go to school, code ninjas. They all have small round tables, small round chairs. That make no sense. So we're different both from a physical perspective as well as from a curriculum perspective. And it's 100% proprietary. We have the largest STEM curriculum, I think, in the nation, over 2,000 hours. It's all developed in-house.
Super impressive. Normally when I'm doing an interview, I usually start from like the top down. I usually start with like, okay, how'd you get started? And then who are the franchisees? What are their traits? But with you, I actually want to work this backwards, because what fascinates me about your concept is that the teachers, the instructors are so intimately involved in this process, right? So let's start with them. First of all, who are the folks that are teaching the kids, and tell me about the skill sets and how hard is it to get teachers and instructors? Let's talk about those guys.
When I started iCode, I thought, I'm going to have professional people, right, who are working in corporate America, who's doing programming, project management, VPs and directors come and teach. It was absolutely unsuccessful because they couldn't relate to kids and the kids were intimidated. I thought, let me change this around and let me bring on college students who are doing computer science. And, then they could relate to the kids, and the kids are a lot more, open to sort of interaction rather than a gray hair adult, in suit and tie. The kids just don't open up. So we have two types of instructors. One are college students that are doing computer science. And the second, actually, are high school students called lab mentors. So if there are more than 6 kids in a classroom, we require that they have 2 instructors, because once again, it's more focused on the quality rather than hurting them, 12 to 15 like they do in the schools to one teacher. So our maximum ratio is 6 to 1. So the lab mentors are actually high school students that are in the STEM club or robotic club. These are really techies. And the thing is, that creates a fun environment for the kids. Once again, we are tricking kids into thinking that they're actually playing, when in fact they actually live. When they go through the Bell program that we have, 9 different bells, they learn 7 different languages by the time they're done. But we don't talk about that. We talk about, hey, you're coming here to have fun. So the instructors play a huge role in getting the best out of the kids. They open up, you see the teamwork, you see the collaboration, because they're all working together, because they're all techies, rather than a gray hair guy with a suit standing up and trying to teach,
Right.
elementary.
You don't want to hear from an old Gen Xer like me standing up at the classroom. But the kids, okay, so first of all, the kids are going to look up to the older kids that are teaching them, number one.
Yes.
Secondly, just think about it from your instructor standpoint. You have high school or college students, computer science. What better job for them than to be doing what they love, than working another kind of job that a typical high school or college student would be doing?
It builds a resume, right? Especially college students when they're applying for colleges. I flip hamburgers at McDonald's or Burger King or retail store says, I taught computer science at a computer science school. It helps them get into better colleges. And also, if you are a computer science graduate student, saying that you actually taught, programming helps. So it's a win-win for everybody.
That makes sense. Okay, so now let's back up a little further. So now we have the instructors. Do you have is it a manager or a director who oversees each individual location?
First of all, also on the instructors, we have video tutorials on all the curriculum. There's instruction notes for every single slide they present. There is exactly, because we want to control, how it's being taught and taught exactly the same way throughout the system. So there's a lot of training involved for the instructors before they actually do it. But more importantly, not only they already know the programming aspect, but classroom management is a huge aspect that we teach the instructors, because it's different. Kids don't have the experience in terms of classroom management, and when there's a bunch of boys, in a classroom with a drone, things could potentially happen.
Really? I'm not surprised.
Yeah. I've seen that.
I bet you have.
Focus quite a bit on classroom management is the key. And every single campus has a director, an adult, who is responsible for, and every single classroom got a glass, because we tell the kids, at home, do not write on the walls. We encourage the kids to write on the walls at iCode.
Oh my goodness. That is great.
So it's not that they're closed off in a room that don't know what's happening. The director knows exactly what's happening because it's completely glass.
So the director does or does not really need a computer science background.
You don't.
Doesn't sound
I
like
don't
it.
have a computer science background. The funny story is, I'm an accounting. I'm a bean counter. I'm a tax accountant. So, in college, the only class I failed was
Uh-oh.
programming.
The founder
Programming.
of iCode School
Yes.
failed one
Yes.
class in college, and
Yep.
it was
And that was
programming.
Fortran
I
programming.
I love it.
You know, so that tells you that you don't need to be a programmer or a tech whiz at the director level. Now, at the instructor level, yes, you need to understand
Of
programming, you need to
course.
have business background and all that. But as a director, their job is more administration management, right? It's more about sales. It's more about communicating with the parents, and making sure that the campus is run like it's supposed to run. So they are the adult aspect of it. But they don't need technical background at all.
Okay. All right. Now let's back up a little further now. Your franchisees. So first off, I've got some stats I want to share now. So you founded the company in 2015, but you franchised in 2018. And if I have it right, you have 68 franchises, which 49 of which are open, the rest are in development. You're in 24 states. Who are your franchisees? Are any of them directors of the actual locations, or are these all hired directors and they're overseeing it?
Over 90% of them don't run the school, they hire a director. And over 95% of them have a technical background because they get it, they understand it, they love it, they realize the importance and the value of this type of education at an early age. So we have absentee owner in over 95% of our franchisee.
Really, as a prospective franchisee, if I was interested in this franchise, I understand how valuable the child-related space is. I don't necessarily have a technology background, but is a brilliant add-on to somebody else who has multi-unit franchises that's in the kid space too, I would imagine.
Yeah, as I said, some of the franchisees have like judo, karate
Sure.
thing, and they put an iCode right next to it.
Mm-hmm.
That makes a lot of sense because now they cross market each other thing. And also we have campuses, we try to put them in a strip center that have other kids related franchisees or concepts in the same strip center. So then you can kind of market each other because that makes a lot of sense to do that because parents, they're busy. I mean, I have 3 kids and I remember, just running them around nonstop from one place to another place. And having a couple of places right next to each other, they could spend a couple of hours, 2-3 hours, and save them a lot of time.
Right. So let's go back to, you said you had an accounting degree. Is that what you said you had?
Yes.
So what made you even come up with this concept?
Over the last 30 years, I've done 15 startups and quite a few in the tech sector, real estate, food, education, daycare, all that. So, and the two things were common, that when I was hiring, technical folks, they can't communicate. They're brilliant people. God help them, but they can't communicate with them.
Right.
Especially to a non-techie,
Right.
right? The PhD sits in front of me and telling me all this thing, and I'm like, for God's sake, can you please speak English? Because I don't understand what you're saying.
Right. Hence the soft skills came into play in your mind right away.
Exactly. My point was, you could be brilliant, but if we can't communicate effectively, it doesn't work. And programming is a team sport. It's not an individual sport.
Right.
The other thing I found people like not having that. So, and there's always been a shortage. As long as I've opened my eyes, in this world, there's a shortage of technical talent. So I thought, okay, if I could combine, getting kids started early in the technical sort of roadmap, because the society we are creating, you pretty much need to have programming as a language. I mean, just like English is a language.
Totally.
You must know, regardless of what field you want to get into. According to the World Economic Forum, 65% of the jobs we're going to have in 2030 have not been invented yet. If anybody ever doubted that statistics, AI is an example of it in terms of what it's going to do to the types of jobs that we're going to create, right? So when I saw that the shortage is there's no end to it in terms of where we're heading as a society, and then I thought, if I could figure out how to teach kids the soft skills, the teamwork, the collaboration, problem solving skills, then they could be in any field because problem solving, in school, right, in life, it's common, critical thinking, right? Teamwork, collaboration, because the world we live in today is hyper interactive, it's teamwork oriented. And when I see kids today on their phone, they sit in, 5-6 friends having a party and they don't talk to each other. They're on the actually phone, talking to each other through the phone. We're losing human touch, and I think it's important that we teach kids the critical, soft skills that I think are absolutely necessary. I mean, my success, what a little success that I've achieved, is not because of how smart I am. It's my ability to work collaboratively, teamwork, right? Communication. That's what got to me where I am, not because I'm a technologist. So I strongly believe in the soft skills I think are critical to success in today's world.
I agree with you. I can't wait until iCode school's been around long enough till the kids are adults and now in a career or in a business, and they say, it was the soft skills that I learned to be able to communicate, the ability to build a team. They would have gotten that otherwise. You just don't get that in school.
I have a pretty simple vision. People ask me, what's your vision for iCode? I said, I don't want a single kid graduating in America through high school without touching iCode. Very simple.
I love it. So let's go back to 2015. Where do you found the first iCode school?
I'm real estate as well, so I had a building sitting empty. I thought, you know what, let me convert that into iCode. Fairly easy, right? So that's how I started in 2015. When I was building it, people came and said, Abid, what are you doing? This is an after-school program, and you have all this glass, these adult tables, adult chairs, and you're telling me that you're launching something for kids. It makes no sense to me. You know, it's amazing how the 15 startups I've done, every single one I did, people say, Abid, you're stupid. And that's not going to make any sense. Why would you do that, right? I'm like, you know what? You need to have the conviction and the confidence in what you're doing.
Right.
And, you know, the other thing about business is either you're all in or all out. You can't just, you know, I tell people you don't learn how to swim by sitting on the shore and putting your feet in the water. You have to dive in. I've never heard anybody learn how to swim without drinking some water. It's the same way as business, right? You have to jump in. So I jump in all in. Otherwise, I'm not interested because business is tough. If I do it half-heartedly, it's definitely going to fail. I'll guarantee you that. So that's what I thought I got in. I thought, you know what? I'm very fortunate that I had some great advisors. So back in 98, when I started my first full-time entrepreneurship company, I had a board of advisor who told me that, Abid, you could build a multi-story building on a one-story foundation. Nothing will stop you from doing that. But guess what? When the wind blows, your building will be the first one that will fall. I kept that advice. So anything I do, I want to first build a foundation. The first 3 years, all I did was build the system, the processes, the curriculum, more importantly, before I want to go out and just launch. Because, you know, I believe that the stronger the foundation you lay, the better you're going to succeed down the road. So I spent first 2-3 years just building the foundation, the curriculum, getting the business model perfected before I started franchising.
And so what made you decide, or how early on did you decide, you know what, this is a franchise concept?
Day one, because here's my analogy. When you leave your home today, you know exactly where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
You know whatsoever, right? You know exactly where you're going. You know the best route to take as well. But what if there's an accident? Would you just sit there the whole day? No, you find a way to get to it. So in any business concept, I start with the end game, right? I know where I'm heading, and then I build. So there was, from the beginning, it was no doubt that I was going to franchise the concept.
And so with 68 franchise locations, what was life like when you first became a franchisor, and how did you find your first 10?
You know, that's the toughest thing in any business, is the first one, the first few are the most difficult one to sort of get going from that perspective.
Absolutely.
You know, and typically, you know, I've been in Dallas for a long time. I've been in Dallas since 95. So the first one actually was a friend of mine. He said, Abid, you know, I want to sign up with 2 stores. And that was, you know, fantastic for me to get in with a friend who opened the 2 campuses in Dallas area, Frisco and Plano. And that sort of got me sort of going from that perspective. And, you know, you don't have to be smart, very smart. You need to be at the right time in the right place, right? So it's not that I'm any smarter than anybody else. It's just that, you know, if you look at 2015, this concept, teaching kids how to code, was just starting up. You know, it was sort of at the infancy. If you look at all the competitors, they all started around the same time. I happened to be at the right time in the right place, right? And then my thing is, I'm not an educator, I'm not a curriculum writer, I'm not a franchisor background. So my thing is, you know, business is a team sport, right? So you need people with different skills. So you can never start a business knowing everything about the business. So that doesn't scare me at all. So everybody that I hire are smarter than me. I tell people, why would I hire somebody that's dumber than me and pay them money? It makes absolutely no sense. It absolutely makes no sense.
Right.
So I'm the dumbest one in any of my businesses. I run about 6 different companies now, and I'm the dumbest one because I have people that are much smarter. Because if I'm paying them somebody, you better be smarter than me.
That might be, by the way, one of the greatest quotes so far in the months that we've done this podcast. I hope that everybody that's listening to this, that's an aspiring franchisor or somebody they're in franchising like you and I are, and they're trying to grow and they're stuck. It's often that they can't get out of their own way.
9 out of 10 businesses fail. We
Right.
know that's stats. And the 1% that survive, or 10% survive, 90% of them don't cross more than a few $1,000,000.
Mm-hmm.
They get stuck in $3 to $5 million range. Most of them, 90% of them. And the reason is the entrepreneur can never let go. That's why they don't grow. Because in order to grow, you have to trust people. You have to hire competent people. And 9 out of 10 people cannot do that. They're okay with making their own mistakes. They're fine. But they cannot see other people make mistakes. Well, guess what? The definition of a human being is making mistakes. If you can't live with it, if you think you cannot make any mistake, you're stupid.
Right.
But
Right.
the other people are cannot make mistake, you're even more stupid. So you have to hire people, you have to get out of the way, you have to trust them, you have to empower them, you have to create a culture that promotes creativity, take risk, right? We all know that risk equal rewards, right? If you want to start a business, then you're already taking a risk, and then when you get in there, then you quit becoming risk averse. And I'm like, okay, well, how does that work then? Why do you get in the first place? I mean, it makes no sense. It's logical.
Sure.
Business is a risk,
Right.
calculated risk. But if you're risk averse, then don't start a business. It's not for you.
Absolutely. I was talking to a friend recently who he and I have known each other a few years now, and he's been around a lot of entrepreneurs, very, very successful, multi-millionaire entrepreneurs that have done very well over the time. And he said to me, it's interesting, as we've been around a lot of these folks, in more cases than not, believe it or not, it was the introvert that has been more successful than the extrovert with charisma. And the reason why is the introvert knows that they need to hire people because maybe they have a fear of, being out in public and they don't have that charisma. So they go out and they delegate almost out of fear that they hire the people, where somebody that's really extroverted, has a lot of charisma, thinks they can do it all. Those are the people that get in their own way because they, of course, say, nobody can do it like I can. And they get stuck, just like all the businesses that you're talking about that get stuck in that $3 to $5 million range, right?
You have to let go. Either you work in the business or on the business. You can't do both.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter how smart you are.
Right.
So I don't work in the businesses, any of the businesses. I just don't. I'm not smart enough to do that. But I'm smart enough to hire people that are smarter than me. That's the only reason for my success.
And so now how do you know, Abid, when you can scale more quickly? I mean, iCode 68 locations, that's nothing to sneeze at. You're going to be at 100 before you know it. But tell me, there was a point when you guys started I don't know at the pace that you were growing. Did you guys kind of, go like a rocket right at the beginning, or did you go slow and then all of a sudden know, hey, we can turn the spigot up?
Yeah, and the thing is, I've grown companies, significantly large, about a 60% annual growth, but you need to have controlled growth. You need to provide the infrastructure, especially in the franchise business. If you don't build the infrastructure, you will collapse. And I'm not going to name my competitors, but there's one competitor who's collapsing because they grow too fast. And I've seen enough companies that grow, exponentially, and then they fall apart because they have not built the system, the processes, the infrastructure, the investment that is necessary to do that. The amount of staff I have, I could do 200. I have that much staff because I believe that, you need to build the foundation first. You need to I have the largest curriculum department, largest marketing department, because those are two areas that you need to provide help and support. So the other thing, obviously, the benefit is I own 100% of my company, all of them. Mm-hmm. I don't have any outside capital. So I'm not under pressure because there's two types of sort of goals people have: create income or create wealth. The decisions you make to create income are short-term. The decision you make to create equity are long-term. I'm not interested in creating income because I have to pay tax. Mm-hmm. If I create equity, I don't pay tax. I go tax-free. So my decisions in all my companies are more for a long-term perspective and not a short-term perspective. And then you have to have the confidence and the conviction in what you're doing to be able to throw that kind of money in it. And then, I don't do anything unless I have absolutely 100% conviction. I may be stupid, I may be completely wrong, but I'm 100% have conviction in it.
And your decision making is vastly different when you're philosophically looking to build wealth and not just build income, and you don't have any outside of investors that you need to answer to. You're not looking at any financial covenants and saying, hey, are we covering everything? Are we going to be okay? You get to make the right decisions for the company long term.
Exactly. And that's a big difference. And I think, if you look at my companies, I hold them for 10, 15 years before I sell it, because I'm a long-term sort of builder rather than a flipper. And nothing wrong with either one of them. And I'm not saying, everybody should do what I'm doing. Hey, you know what? The people smarter than me are doing much better than me. So I'm not here to teach anybody, but I believe in what I do.
I think this is really important, though, that you're sharing an alternative view, because we're seeing in franchising more and more about these franchise, private equity platforms that are starting up and these companies that are building a portfolio. And you've gone the other route, which, by the way, that's where you and I also are very similar. My wife and I bootstrapped our company. We didn't have any outside investors. And I thought we made the right decisions for our company because we were never looking over our shoulder. And strategically, we were always in lockstep with the leadership team. You operate differently, I think.
I tell people, look, when I go home, I have a boss, right? I'm married for 33 years. I don't want to have a boss in the daytime. Let me do what I want to do. I already have a boss at home, so I don't want to have a boss and a financial guy who invested me down. I like to live my life and enjoy life, make the decisions that I think are the right decisions for long term.
Yeah, no, that's great. Let's talk a little bit more about the franchise owners that you have in the system. So, are they normally single unit franchise owners or multi?
We prefer multi, and we have several in Virginia. We have several in Maryland, in California, where we have multi-unit franchisees, I love them because then they have scale. They have benefit from that perspective. They could control an area. So when they spend the marketing dollars, it's beneficial to them rather than other franchisees in the same area as well. So I think there's a lot of benefit to sort of multi-unit franchise owners, as you know, and I'm very fortunate that there's at least 4 to 5 of them that are multi-unit. In Tulsa, in Oklahoma, there's multi-unit franchisee. Maryland, as I said, Virginia, California, in Dallas as well. So, which is, I think, fantastic, because I think, you get a lot of benefits by owning a multi-unit. I think from a marketing perspective, from a management perspective, there's a lot of synergies and a lot of cost saving you could achieve if you have multi-unit in the same area, and you kind of control the market.
Of course. And what a great validation that is for iCode to have multi-unit franchise owners. Look, there's nothing better than a franchisee that wants another location.
There's a couple of, headwinds. Obviously, the interest rate is a big issue right now, and the construction cost post-pandemic has gone up significantly. So I've been very creative in terms of, because as I said, in order to be successful, you have to be creative. Well, if you got these two headwinds you don't control, but you control what you control. You can't control everything. So what I've done is, I'll do a 6% rebate on the interest rate, because I looked at March 2022, the interest rate SBA was 6.5%. Now it's like 12, 13%. So I think, I'll give the 6% rebate for 2 years. Anybody who wants to take a loan, I'll give you 6% rebate. And then the other thing I'm doing is I'm guaranteeing the built-out cost, because the cost has gone up so much, it's ridiculous. And so I have my own crew. I've become a distributor for all the products that goes into it. So what I call iCode in a box. So I guarantee you X, I'll get the whole construction done, equipment, everything done, and distribute, because that's why you have to be creative. And that's why I'm getting a lot of success, because now I've taken out the two things that I don't control and completely threw them away.
Right. And I bet the build-out's faster.
Build out faster, so I control it. I get it a lot cheaper than anybody could do it, because I'm sort of become a direct distributor for everything that goes into an iCode now.
What's the investment range of an iCode school?
Between 300,000 to 400,000. It depends on, obviously, the geographic area, if you will. That includes there's a lot of hardware that goes into an iCode, because there's laptops, there is all-in-ones, there's sports machine, there's robots, there's drones, there's EV3, the Raspberry Pi, 3D printing, everything included in that $300,000 to $400,000 range.
So you've been franchising now for 5 years, Abid. What's been your biggest surprise since you started franchising?
I've ran several companies. I run several companies today. Being a franchisor is the toughest thing, because you have, as many bosses as their franchisees, number one. And second, you're marketing, trying to sell more franchisees, right? Bring on more franchisees on board. On the other hand, you're trying to promote and get butts in the seat, students. And so you're running actually two different marketing departments under one roof simultaneously. And the second thing, especially with this one, is the curriculum, right? It's constantly changing. I mean, we have rewritten, the curriculum 3 times in the last 5 years because technology changes. Kids are becoming so smart. I'm so glad I'm not a student because I'll flunk. I'll absolutely flunk. I have no hope whatsoever to pass it. They're so smart. I swear to God. A first grader, second grader, I mean, they know so much more than I do, right? So we are constantly challenged these kids, otherwise they get bored. So the curriculum, enhancement changes are constant. And then you have marketing on the franchisees and then trying to get butts in the seat. So it is a very demanding job to be a franchise. It's a lot of fun, it's a lot of satisfying, but at the same time, quite challenging compared to a normal, B2B or B2C business.
Yeah, well, I was thinking, Peter Drucker said that business is two things, right? Innovation and marketing. And in your case, innovation, obviously that's the business itself, but you have another challenge that's inherent to your business is that because of the constant technology changes, AI, you have to constantly be updating the curriculum.
Nonstop. The largest team at iCode is curriculum team. That's the most money on the curriculum and just maintaining it. But it gives us tremendous advantage because we control our destiny.
Yes.
We're not relying on a third party for curriculum. We control our destiny, and we have some brilliant, guys who write the curriculum. We have instructional design engineers, storyline guys, quality assurance people. It's just a lot of curriculum. As I said, about 2,000 hours of curriculum. We have thousands of pages of curriculum, and just maintaining that, making it look professional in itself is a huge job. So, but I enjoy it. As I said, just like working out, right? The more you push yourself, the better you feel. You may hate it when you're doing it. I work with a personal trainer, and I keep him pushing me, and I hate it the whole time. But when I'm driving back from the workout, I feel so good.
Right.
The same thing in business, right? The challenging it is, the more satisfying it is, right? If you don't enjoy that challenge, then don't be in business.
You should do something else.
It is challenging, and it's just tenacity, perseverance, grit is what you need, and that's what I actually crave for.
Yeah. Abid, what are you most proud of about iCode School?
I've done many businesses, but I've never received so many thank yous from parents and from my clients.
Were you expecting that when you started out? No way, right?
Oh my God. It put tears in my eyes. And I'm not being, emotional about it to say that, but actually NBC did a news story few years back with a kid, how his life completely changed. They went to his house, talked to his parents and all that. There's not a single event I go to where the parents come and thank me for it. It is the most gratifying business I've ever done. It is the most satisfying business. A business, but at the end of the day, you're doing good for society, and the parents just absolutely, it made such a big difference in my kid's life. Because not every single kid is in sports, right?
Right.
And if they're not in sports, they feel left out.
Yes.
Right. So this gives them the avenue to have kids with similar interests, and it's just a tremendous amount of fun.
I just think it's amazing that you started out and all you were trying to do was accomplish the gap you saw in the market, that kids that were into technology needed to have soft skills, and where you and I think we have a lot in common. But the other thing we have in common is when I started my business and it was sports leagues, I just loved sports, and I thought there needed to be an alternative. There was too much cutthroat sports activities. It was all about fundraisers and tryouts and drafts, and there had to be a better way. What we found at the end of it all was something totally different, that you're making a difference in a child's life more than you could have ever imagined.
It's very satisfying. It's tremendously satisfying. To feel that you're making a difference in a child's life. I don't think there's anything better that I could have hoped to accomplish in life than changing kids' life for the better.
Right. And it helps you get through the challenges in running the business when you have a greater good involved. So with that, I want to ask you, what's one of the biggest challenges that iCode deals with?
These days, it's tough to hire people. The human resources capital is especially in a service business, it's all about people. A company is nothing but a collection of people. It's all it is. And the better the people are, the better the company is. And that is a challenge that I think, just not me, I think is throughout the country. Unemployment as low as we have, finding good talent is the toughest part of it.
Yeah. So knowing that, have you thought about what your vision is? Like, how big is big for iCode?
I said, I'll stop when every single kid in America touches iCode before they graduate. Whenever that is, and I hope it's in my lifetime and not too distant.
And how many iCode schools do you see that you can have throughout the country?
No, there's a couple of models we have done. One is the brick and mortar, which is in the DMA's market that makes sense to have a physical thing, but also care about people who are not living in the main metropolitan area because they need education as well.
Sure.
So we have what we call REACH, which is basically in a third tier city where you use the existing infrastructure like the school, the churches, right, the libraries to conduct classes rather than a brick and mortar. So on the brick and mortar, I think I could get to about 500, but with REACH, I think I could add another more 500 REACH, which is out in the rural community. And I think also it's very satisfying because those people are not able to have the type of activities, education that somebody living in the Dallas-Fort Worth area has.
Sure.
So I think also it's good for entrepreneurship in those rural areas where somebody can get into an iCode with less than 50,000 and conduct classes in underutilized asset real estate that's sitting empty after school. So that's two different programs we have, the iCode, the brick and mortar, and the iCode REACH.
With iCode REACH, is that something in the future or is that something you're starting to develop now?
No, we already have it. We have it in Tennessee, we have it in Texas, yes. So I came up with the concept last year and because I'm trying to figure out how do I get out to people outside the metroplexes.
What advice would you give to somebody who is considering joining your brand as a franchise owner? What do you tell them?
First of all, in any business you get in, love what it is. If you don't love it, don't do it. You need to have the passion, and the belief and the conviction in whatever you do, whether you're working, whether you're starting a business. So that's the first thing I ask the people. And then our model is quite different compared to the others that are there, which are teaching them coding. We teach them coding, but our model is different. And you have to believe in this model. I tell people, look, if you don't believe in the model, please don't buy in. One franchisee Prospect did an amazing thing. So he went through the discovery day for all the three competitors, or two other competitors of mine. Then he has his kid attend each thing and see which one the kids wanted it. And obviously, we beat them hands down because none of the competitors have the look and feel, the hardware, and all that. So we won. So it's signing up franchisee, and that's why I tell people, send your kid out and see if they enjoy it. And if they do, then most likely other kids will enjoy it as well. Right? So have the conviction, believe in the model. If you have young kids, get them for a free trial class and see if they like it. If they don't like it, then don't get it. Don't get the business if you don't like it. It's not worth it.
Yeah, you have to have total buy-in when you obviously going to buy a franchise. You have to believe in the concept. Your spouse or partner has to believe in the concept because you won't get through the tough days because I don't care what franchise you have, there's going to be tough days, right? And you have to believe
any business, there's ups and downs.
Yeah.
Any business is ups and downs.
I was thinking of this quote that I think relates to iCode. I want to get your thoughts on it. So years ago, Elon Musk was interviewed by 60 Minutes. And when he was interviewed, they asked him what the false perception that he was trying to overcome. And he was saying that if something's important enough, you should try even if the probable outcome is failure. You obviously had conviction from the time you started iCode. But what Elon was trying to do was he said, I was trying to address the false perception that say electric vehicles didn't have to be ugly, boring, or slow like a golf cart. So what I'm curious is, what do you think is a false perception that you wanted to address with iCode?
First of all, the big thing is you have to be a techie, and you really don't have to be a techie at all to run. This is a business, right? It's more to sales administration, that aspect. So that's a lot of people think, I need to have, experience in technology, be a technologist. So that's the perception that doesn't really apply at all. And the other thing, in general, my view of failure, let me give you my sort of thinking on this whole concept of failure.
Yeah.
It's really not, because for instance, you go to a university and pay a fee to learn, right? If you go to Harvard, you're going to pay a lot more than, somebody in Nebraska or in Dallas, but you pay a fee to learn it. So what I tell people is I attend the University of Life, and the fees that I pay are the mistakes I make. So it's not a failure, it's just a fee I'm paying, right? So I don't look at failures, and I think people should not look at failure as a bad thing. It's just the fee you pay. Now you go to the university, you pay the fees and not learn anything. Same way you can make mistakes and not learn from it. But
Right.
as long as you're learning, I've made so much money off of my failure, it's not even funny. And people just try it. Try it in the university of life, right? It's not a failure. The other perception is dream. I don't know why people don't dream. Really it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't cost you anything. The last time I dreamed, it didn't cost me anything. But people just don't dream. Don't have the confidence. Confidence is the ability to convince sane people to do the same thing, right? But you need to have the confidence and the ability to dream. Here I am, a foreign national, the gold story, came with $100 suitcase. Well, that's me, no different. But I had the audacity to dream and work hard for it. And that's why I tell people, dream big, but not just dream, but then work hard for it.
Right.
There's nothing in life that is easy to get. The good things are tough to get, whether it's starting a business, whatever you take. But, admit that, accept that, and work your butt off. Don't self-pity. I mean, people self-pity. I'm like, what good they're going to do? I'm the biggest self-pitier if I think that will help me. Life is tough. Business is tough. Getting there, okay, to win a battle. I think success, is the most potent drug than any drug. I'm not taking any drug, and that's
Right.
100%. But I tell you, once you're addicted to success, it's the most amazing drug that you want more and more of it. But guess what? Before you get addicted, you need to have successes.
Yes. And fulfillment goes with that, right?
It's huge. It's huge. It's so satisfying. It's tremendously satisfying. I want people to try entrepreneurship and see how fulfilling it is. It's tough, but God, I mean, to do anything in life, doing something that's not hard. And I'm glad it's hard, because being as hard as it is, I have competition. Well, guess what? If it was easy, how much competition I'll have. So I thank the Lord that business is tough.
I tell people that all the time, Abid, when they get worried about starting a business. Like, you're so lucky that it's a big challenge. You have no idea how much competition you're keeping out of the industry.
Everybody knows what it takes to be successful. Everybody knows. For instance, I mean, that eat good food and you stay healthy. Don't smoke. Work out. Go for a walk. Everybody knows that. The same way, but how many people actually do it? The same thing, right? To be successful, people know what needs to be done. Getting up, being lazy, not taking risks, not willing to work hard. Well, be successful, but help me. How? You want to be successful? What are you willing to do for it? So everybody knows what it takes to be successful. If you have the burning desire to be successful, then you'll do it.
I got to ask you this. I usually finish every podcast with a thing called the tip jar, because the franchise community is just so generous with sharing best practices. You have been so generous. I think the tip jar is beyond full with the amount of incredible tips that you provided. But is there anything left? If for somebody that there's an entrepreneur out there, they're aspiring to franchise their concept, what would you like to say to them out there?
Have conviction and confidence. And then once you have that, pull all in. You're either all in or you're all out. This part-time thing, I'll keep the job and then I'll sort of run this thing. No, it's never going to work. If you believe in it, then put your money where the mouth is, right? That's number one. Second, plan it. Okay, plan ahead your financial. How I started business was, I knew I was going to start a business. So I lived, in a small house, had a Nissan Sentra, got a hail damage. I didn't, fix it and drove it because I knew I was going to do something. So it takes planning. So plan ahead. Make sure that you have enough finances, because 9 out of 10 businesses fail because of funding. So make sure you have the funding, but more importantly, have the conviction and the confidence. And then once you have it, then go all in.
Abid, if somebody's interested in iCode to learn about the franchise, where do they go?
iCodefranchise.com is a great website. A lot of information. You have more information than you probably care to read, but how do the due diligence? I'll tell people, look, I want them to go and visit my competitors. Please get your kids in. Because you're investing a lot of money. It's money, right? And we actually make sure that it's the right business model that you have. But go to the website, iCodefranchise.com. There's lots of information. You can fill out, if you want more information, fill out a little sort of form there, and somebody will get back to you within minutes.
Thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. I know that we're making a difference in people's lives. Just you and I having this kind of conversation, because people are going to franchise their concept and they need to know what it takes to be successful. And it takes the right kind of personality, right? It takes the right kind of grit,
Yep.
perseverance, and just willing to not only dream big, like you said, but willing to absolutely go for it.
You've been very gracious and very kind, Frank. I really appreciate it. I want to thank you, and I wish you all the best in what you do. It's been a real pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Abid.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group, LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.